everybody, welcome to our YouTube channel. My name is Scott Mendenhall. This is our other YouTube channel where we're usually always live on Sundays right after our one-wheel race. We're hoping you're enjoying the Great Lake race. If you're coming in through midweek and it's not live for you, you're going to enjoy it as well. We're going to talk a little bit at the beginning about our one-wheel race in the Great Lakes race where we're trying to get to all Great Lakes in 24 hours on paddleboards and one-wheels. It's coming to a conclusion next week. I'm never alone in here. To my left, we have the one and only, the shortest friend I have.
No, I'm not.
Lily Weiner.
I am not the shortest friend you have because you have lots of children who are shorter than me.
They're my children.
At the moment,
Yeah,
not
they
for
are
long.
Who are you?
They will probably all surpass me, but it's fine.
Lily, who would you say is shorter in my friends? Who's shorter than you?
There are a lot of my roommate,
Look.
Kaylee, is shorter than me.
She is?
Yes.
Oh, just okay.
Yes.
But right now you're my shortest. Okay.
Okay.
How are you doing, Lil?
I'm doing great. That was so fun to watch. It was so fun to do, just remember how hard it was to do.
The wake
What is
surfing?
it called? Wake surfing.
Yes.
It was so difficult to stand up and who throws someone into the deep end without telling them how to do something first? Just saying.
We are also not alone. Joey would like to jump in on the conversation. You can hear. Yes, Joey.
I am here today, and I don't know, Lily. I mean, I'm pretty sure Michael was explaining to you how to do it.
Yeah.
You were. I agree. You were first, and
Yeah,
you
but
had
it
to
was
jump
tough.
in there first. It was tough. I agree.
Do you think you could have done it?
He did
Better?
it.
I did it.
The dude.
Yeah,
No,
but
I did-
you
I
had
did
two
get to
whole
watch you.
examples.
But when you had the board flat on the water with your heels on the board, I was just like, oh no.
Oh, hold on. Yeah. But we watched everything you watched. It's not like somebody was in the water coaching us. Don't act like it was an unfair advantage for
All
you.
I'm gonna say-
If you think Lily had an unfair advantage, would you please let
Yeah.
her know in the chat she would like some sympathy on it because she's feeling a little shafted.
Yeah.
Yes, Lily.
all I'm gonna say is that if it were any of you to have gone first,
We would have nailed it.
I think you would have struggled a little bit, maybe not as much as me.
What?
Because I just am unique.
Yes.
And I'm so uniquely made that I am so different than everyone else and struggle more than everyone else sometimes. Just kidding. That was a joke.
I don't disagree that we might have had some excuses if we didn't get up our first time, but it didn't happen.
It
so
didn't happen. We nailed
We
it.
nailed it.
I mean, I'm
Both
not
of
trying to
us.
go, great job, Scott, but I'm just saying, Lil, I don't know. I mean, you get things, you do. Look at the way you rode the one wheel. It took you a little bit, and then it was weeks. And then you're like, okay, I want one. And then you ended up that year,
I know,
2018,
I gotta
getting
get-
one for Christmas. But before that, you're like, I'm nervous
I
about
gotta
it.
get myself a wake surf boat.
Yeah, yes, you do. She would for Christmas this year, she would like one of those $100,000 wake surf boats. Yes.
Yes, let's go.
Hey, so we're pretty stoked about, we're going to announce here for the first time, we are in process of, as we wrap up this Great Lake race series, we're going to have go back to some of our fun races that we do locally. And then we have our Christmas episodes that will be dropping right after Thanksgiving. We are making plans of filming that. The way we're going to start is going to be epic. It's going to be another traveling. We're going to go somewhere warm as we are in Minnesota. We're pretty stoked on it. The three of us have cleared our schedule, and so we're excited. We're not going to tell you the exact location.
Can we have them guess where they think we're going to do
We
it?
kind of alluded to it sometimes, so if you're a regular, you might know. Guess where we're going to travel to film we don't have a name for it yet, but our race for Christmas is going to be pretty fun. We're going to paddleboard again, and we're going to do a lot of one wheeling. So we're stoked on it. And Christmas is really fun for us because of the shenanigans we do. And so you're not going to miss the Christmas episodes we're going to bring to you in December. So mark your calendars, don't miss it. While we're at it, let's say good morning to some people in the chat. Lil, who's in the chat with us today?
We've got a lot of great friends hanging in the chat with us. Seriously, welcome. We're glad you guys are here. We've got Dan and Jen Woodham, all the way from Tampa, Florida. We've got Johan Richards from South Africa, and you guys aren't putting where you're from. This is just straight from memory. So I hope you know that we love you here, and you mean a lot to us wherever you're watching from. You're not just another name in the chat. We love meeting you guys. Eric, Travis, Michael, Ryan, Kayla, Lily, Tim Kennedy, we would love to know where you're watching from too, so we can learn. So put that in the chat there, and just thanks for joining us today.
Somebody's
guys.
asking in the chat, is it too late to enter in on the pint giveaway? No. You can go to We're Giving a Pint Away and drop a comment on it, and Joey or I will pick who gets to...
Wait.
Yeah, don't even act like you're not even close.
What do you
Wait,
mean, Lily?
what
You don't
if,
have a
though?
chance?
What if I came through and
might,
somehow
she
won the
might.
whole thing?
If,
just saying.
If
I'm
Joe,
just saying.
the only way, I don't even think mathematically it could happen.
But it could.
No, Joey and I, we don't even finish the deal, and you get 2 first. That's not enough points to even beat us already.
But the stars could align ever so well.
What? And then all of a sudden, the last 2 races
The
are
last
worth
race,
more.
it's worth
I'm not
more.
sure
yeah,
how
I
it
mean,
could
you
happen,
know,
but-
I wouldn't be
Anything's
surprised.
possible.
It could happen.
It could happen. Anything
I'd be
could
more
happen.
surprised. Hey, I would be more surprised if I woke up tomorrow with my face sewn to the carpet.
Okay, Scott,
than you
you
would.
Oh,
have
that's-
said that lots
Like, what
of
made you
times.
think of that?
And
Someone
no,
to
wait,
the carpet.
I-
Ow!
Joey.
Joey,
That
come
sounds-
on! Wouldn't
All
you be
morning.
surprised if you woke up tomorrow and your face was sewn to the carpet?
I'd
all
be very
like-
surprised.
All
Yes.
morning, I have just been a soft voice in the background that no one is hearing.
What?
No, seriously though, Scott, you've said face sewn to the ground so much that I think it's time for a new phrase. What do you guys think?
Oh wait, only to you because you're always
No,
saying.
you say it. You say it.
No, you're just
What
saying it
else-
because it's always directed to you.
What
I wouldn't
else
be surprised.
What else would be so shocking, like that you can replace that phrase?
If
with?
I woke up tomorrow and my feet were stuck in concrete. See, not as funny.
That's good.
No, get out of here. Okay. Hey, also Jen is writing in there. She's obviously on the Lily train here, and she says, "No, anyone that goes second or third gets to learn from the trials and errors of the individual that goes first."
She's not wrong.
Maybe so. Maybe so. We go back and watch that moment with Lily, like we're all giving her some coaching. Lily, bend your knees, and her legs are straight. And then it was very comical.
I was nervous. Okay.
Of what?
Of doing the new thing. I just was nervous about it. It was scary.
It's good for you to do new
Yeah,
things. It
it
really
is.
is. Okay. Enough of us chatting about that and
You know-
bantering. Next week is the conclusion of the Great Lake race. Someone is going to win. You will find out if we make it. The time is short. With everything that we still need to do, it's going to be very, very close. And just so you know, we don't cut races short. We're not going to go, let's only do a one-lapper or something to get time. We stayed with the plan to see if we can pull it off. So we are at Lake Superior. Somebody asked about the drone situation, like what we film with. Next week, you will see that the drone that we normally filmed with, its life comes to an abrupt end. And it will be in the video.
Dun dun.
Very distracting moment, but hey, you know what? It's just the way it goes. Okay,
Moving on.
moving on. We're excited to have you here. Lily's got she's going to try to stump Joey with some questions here.
Ooh, I love it. Love it.
in
I
a
don't think
moment.
Lily can stump me with
If
questions.
Joey is stumped, here's what happens. If Joey gets stumped out of 5 questions, for every question he is stumped, we will give away a gift card to a gift card to probably like Amazon, since everybody can use that. We will give that many Amazon gift cards away to just a random name in the chat today. So, Lily, are you ready with your first question to stump Joey?
Yes.
Okay, Joey, now these are all randomly selected questions, none of which have been prepared, and they are
Okay.
all spontaneous. So you get to...
And they're all from Lily.
I might help her out occasionally.
Okay.
You know, some could be spelling, some could be about
Well,
like...
I'm guessing the chat wants me to do not so hot.
Well, yeah, they're probably not going to be rooting for you, Joey.
Which, I
it's-
mean,
I'm sorry to...
it's all right.
It's
all right.
okay. Okay,
All right.
so Lily, the first question is...
Okay, I'm going to admit I was playing a game last night with some friends and heard this question that really stumped me a little bit. So Joey, here it is, and I'm sorry if you're surprised by where this question is being taken, but Joey, let me first ask this.
Okay.
Have you ever peed in the shower?
Absolutely. Probably every shower.
Oh my goodness!
Wait. Hold the phone. Did you say every shower?
I mean, a good amount.
Wait, we need to see Joey right now.
What?
We need to see him. Joey, you pee in every shower you take?
No,
Joey,
not every shower, but a lot of showers.
Joey,
I pee
you
in the
shower
shower.
like twice a day.
So I pee in the shower a lot.
Okay, Joey.
Wow,
Do you think,
open and honest here.
Yeah,
I don't
open
know.
and honest.
Yeah.
Okay, Joey, do you think peeing in the shower does A, unclog the drain, B, wash the bacteria off your feet, C, help clean the bathtub itself, or D, does nothing at all? I just made that one.
All right.
So it's probably not that one.
I'm gonna go with.
What is it?
It's gonna be B or C. The
This is the
bacteria
weirdest
or
question ever.
C. I'm gonna go with B if it hits your feet.
And you're right.
Yeah.
It does. It cleans off bacteria in your feet. Who knew?
So it's
Who
a
knew?
good thing.
And it's true. Well, because it
Yeah.
said it in this game, and the game was like fun facts I wish I didn't know.
People right now are probably like,
so-
"What are we?"
No,
talking
there's some
about?
people that said bacteria. Okay, here we go, Joey. I got one for you. Here is Stumped Joey and maybe you. Okay, Joey, here's the story. Listen very closely, okay?
This is gonna.
A plane full of 101 people plus the captain take off from Seattle, Washington. They are going in a direction towards New York City, but they make a roundabout way going through Canada. On their approach back into the United States, the pilot goes unconscious and crashes the plane on the border of the United States and Canada. There are many things lost and life lost. Where do you bury the survivors? Joey, in Canada or the United States? What would you do?
The United States.
In the United States!
I'm
So,
totally lost.
Hi.
Lily, what would you say? United States or Canada?
Canada.
Canada!
Joey
There's-
didn't say.
Yes,
Canada.
but I asked, where do you bury survivors?
You don't bury them.
survivors.
Oh.
Stump Joey, folks!
All right, I got one. Can I give one?
All right, here you go, Lily.
Okay. Joey, Mississippi is spelled Mississippi. Now, spell that without any I's or S's.
You can't.
What? Did you just ask him to spell Mississippi without any I's?
Okay,
S's.
I
Is that what you
said
asked?
That doesn't
no.
make sense.
Hello, I said spell that without any I's or S's.
THAT.
Let's go, Joey!
Oh, I
Good
thought-
job! But you also,
you-
I would like to clarify, you can spell Mississippi without any I's or S's.
How? I.
P.
The fact that you're pausing says
can't.
that you're. How about just close
There's
your
missing
eyes?
letters.
Why don't you just spell Mississippi with your eyes closed? It's the same thing. No eyes.
Oh, but what about the S's?
Fine.
M. Oh, yeah, I'm confused.
Oh
okay,
my gosh.
moving on.
Okay,
Is that
Because it
it?
doesn't
okay, we've
work.
now stumped Lily. Thank you everyone for hanging with us. We like to put a smile on your face, give you an escape from what is going on in your life. We hope that you come log in here with us and hang out and you're having an amazing week, but we know life happens. And so we want to give you a moment to reflect about your week and make you chuckle and maybe smack your head, shake your head at us going, those guys and the shenanigans they do. It really is our hopes on video to capture real life, that we don't put on something that's fake, that you get the real us. Even when we're having great days and bad days, it's the same. And on this channel, we always share a little bit of why we can be constant when life is not. Why we can go without sleep in 24 hours to do some kind of race and still laugh and not hate each other. There's reasons. And so some of that is our hope is in Jesus. Our hope is that we become more like Jesus every day, no matter what the events or things that transpire. And oftentimes we all take moments where we just reflect on how good God is. And I just got to be really honest. I know Lily and I know Joey really well, and I get to see them and talk to them weekly, and I know what's going on in their lives. And not always is their life going amazing. They're amazing, but they get phone calls all the time of some tragic things going on, and they have to change their schedule. They lose, resources. Sometimes, these crazy things happen for them. But the great thing is their friend is to be with them and to see that they are living what they always share with people that they should, that their hope is in Jesus. It works for us. It is something that gives us hope when so many people would say it's just hopeless. when they look at the world and it's falling apart. Our hope is not in that the world will continue to spin the right way. Our hope is in that Jesus is our best friend. It's one of those ways we say to remind us who he is, that he is the Lord of our life. And maybe that turns a lot of you off, and you're like, I like the one-wheel stuff, Scott. Let's get back to that. Yeah, we love that stuff too. But we don't love that more than we love our relationship with our God, who sent Jesus to die on a cross for our sins to get us back into a right standing with God. And so if that turns you off, don't log off, hang with us. We want to give you, as I say this every week, we want to give you a moment to pause and reflect on your week and what I just said. What does it mean to you? How does it make sense to you? And our hope is over the next few moments that you connect with God. Answer the question, what is Jesus saying to you today, and what are you going to do about it? We're going to talk about integrity. And can you have integrity from the age of 15 till the day you die? Can you have it that long? Or is integrity one of those things that you just use to get what you want and let it go? We're going to talk about that as we wrap up our thoughts on integrity. And so over the next few moments, as we play an old song from Delirious, from Martin Smith and Stu G, they both filmed together. One's in England and one is in, I think, Nashville, Tennessee, and it's a really cool way of putting together old songs. But our hopes is that you would listen to the words and go, what does this mean to me? That you would take a moment to reflect. Because if you do this, if you can pause what you're doing in your home, pause the bacon, maybe you need to turn the bacon off, maybe you need to put headphones in, so you're just taking a moment to reflect on what role does God play in your life. I promise you, you're going to walk out of this moment a little bit more recharged, a little bit more like, okay, I got this. Lily, Joey, and I, we do this all the time. We'll put on music that has a truth in it that will waken up our soul, that will go, we got this. And when I say we, it's not the three of us got this, which we do, but it's if I can say it like this, it's the fourth person that we can't see is the reason we got it, and that is our relationship with God. So enjoy this song. We'll be back to talk about integrity. Can you have it for your entire life? We'll make it a discussion where we want you to engage in the chat and stuff. So enjoy this song right here from Martin Smith and Stu G. Enjoy.
Sing of your love forever. Over the mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me. And I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands, for I will always sing of when your love came down. I could sing, I could sing of your love. Over the mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me. And I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands, for I will always sing of when your love came down. I could sing of your love forever. 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 Oh, I feel like dancing. It's foolishness, I know, but when the world has seen the light, they will dance with joy like we're dancing now. I could sing of your love of your love forever. I could sing of your love forever. Yeah. I could sing of your love forever. I could sing of your love forever. I could sing of your love forever. I could sing.
I love what
of
somebody
your
wrote in the
love
comments. You feel like you're at camp listening to them live. It's true. Especially, it will aid you on knowing that song. It is an old song. I grew up listening to that song. It's such a good song. It just has the right vibes. I do feel like we should have had some kind of fire going in here. It is a little chilly in Minnesota. In the place that we do the filming of YouTube for this channel, we're in a very, very open place where whatever the temperature is outside is in here, and it's chilly today. So we would love a fire, to be honest with you. I hope you enjoyed that. Lily does have a gift card to give away. Lily, who won the gift card?
I do randomly selected. This person also played the game with us. Kayla Lily, you have won an Amazon gift card. Congratulations. I feel like I'm like a...
Well, everybody
Well, then
thinks
everyone
you're
is, yeah,
Yeah,
thinks you're
saying
like
that.
a Jeopardy
host.
host.
Well, yeah. Yeah, anyways.
Would
So-
you like to be a Jeopardy host?
No, I don't even know. I wouldn't... It takes someone like Alex Trebek or whatever, who was the Jeopardy host. He was probably knowledgeable about what they were asking the contestants about. I myself might not be.
That's what would make you the great version of it. It would be that you don't actually know what you're talking
You know what
about.
I think you'd be good at, Lily?
Let's hear this, Joey.
Is being the host of like a Family Feud or like some type of show like that.
Like that, like
Yeah.
shenanigans, like
Like
a Nickelodeon
shenanigans.
show.
Oh, yeah, I would love that.
she'd be so good.
Nickelodeon. Yeah, I think so. Maybe next week we'll give it a go. She'll be the game host, and we'll get a couple people, contestants in
So
here.
I can have slime.
Yeah,
for
but
you
the
guys?
trick will be, this will be the opposite deal. If you choose to slime someone, the host has to be slimed as well. So
Nope.
that would kind of slow the
Not
roll
happening.
down. Yeah, that's my point. That's my point right there. Your roll would be slowed or really quick. Hey, if you've not subscribed to this channel, we are so close on breaking 400 on here.
That's
Which
awesome.
would be really cool. And so if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Did you know this? That when you hit the subscribe button, it changes color.
I thought you said when you hit the bell notification, it changes color.
It does too.
Oh.
Maybe it's been a while since you hit subscribe to something, but it changes. It
No,
doesn't-
I've subscribed.
It doesn't change color. It does something. So just see what it does. But don't unclick it. Just
Sometimes
click
I get like subscribe happy and I see these channels that I've watched one video from and I'm like, subscribe, you're cool, because I know how it feels to want more subscribers, not just because we want the numbers, but because we feel like we can inspire a lot of people here and we just want more people here.
This is
So
correct.
let's get them here.
So and then turn on the bell notification. We'll give you thumbs up for doing that. Okay, there's that. That's our plug for that. Here's the question going into the topic today. Joey, we're coming to you, buddy, because it's been fun to stump you. What is, when I say cancel culture, what do you think of? Cancel culture.
I think of like, gosh, this term has been used a lot lately, but like cancel culture, like can't I don't shoot.
You got this, Joey.
Can't,
You can defer to Lily. It's okay.
Joey, you got it.
thanks, Lily.
He's like, that's not helping me.
Cancel culture. I don't know. Defer to
Joey,
Lily.
let's just stop at cancel. Like, let's just stop at
No,
cancel.
we're not going to break it down. We'll be here all day. Okay,
Okay,
Joey,
nothing.
have you been, and for those that are online with this, have you heard any of this week? I don't know where we're sitting in the story, so when I was putting my notes together midweek Wednesday, that's where my information sits at the moment. It could have transpired. If you're not in the United States or don't follow the NFL, you might be clueless, but there's a coach who is the coach of the Raiders. His name is John Gruden. He hot name this week because of his past. 12 years ago and 7 years ago, he had these emails that he wrote and sent it to an individual. They were leaked this week of what he said 12 years ago and 7 years ago about people. Not appropriate way of speaking about people, humans, okay? No matter your background, we should not speak the way he wrote in letter form, okay? Or even verbal, okay? It's just true. what he said was not okay or appropriate. It was 12 years ago and 7 years ago. And he was forced to resign because these emails came out as the head coach of the Raiders. Joey, does that sound like cancel culture?
Yes.
Now,
I'm not confident in my answer though.
you're not. Okay, let's see. Lily, is anyone in the chat brave enough to write down what cancel culture is? You'll have to read it, I know.
Not.
We would love to hear what you. She's always going to be following the chat while this
Yes.
is happening. So if you want to stab at it, and some of you are like, I can't believe we're talking about this today.
So
But
we got a couple comments so far that you don't endorse a view or show attention to it, or you don't give things clout, as in cancel culture, like you don't give things credit or people the credit they deserve, or maybe you don't deserve.
okay. So here's my next question in this. Okay, so Joey, let's say you go get, or Lily, we'll throw it to Lily. We'll give pressure off of Joey for a second. Okay, Lily, let's say you go and get a new job. Let's say it's a cheerleading coach job. Okay, what's one of the first things you're going to do as you're entering in the hiring process with this organization? What are some of the first things you're going to do besides sending a resume in and all those things? What else are you going to start taking care of?
So like I've already interviewed.
Yep, if we can switch to Lil.
I feel like I know the answer because we've talked about
That's
this.
fine.
Like I would go through my personal pages and make sure they're clean so that they don't find anything sketchy about me that they wouldn't hire me because of.
You're going to check to see if your
Like,
social media
my
lines up to
Facebook,
the
yeah.
values
Yes, I
of
like
the
that.
organization, right?
Yes.
Come on, we all know this. We all, whatever your background is, you all know this because part of cancel culture is if somebody finds out your past and it doesn't line up to, because that's what's happened to John Gruden here. I don't know what I don't know if things came out since Wednesday that most recently has said comments that are appropriate and stuff. I'm just going on that 12 years ago and 7 years ago, these emails said such and such, okay? So we all know that we should check our Facebooks, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever you posted on our Twitter to see, do our comments line up? Do we need to clean house, delete pictures, all these things, because perhaps maybe we could be canceled. It doesn't take much to get canceled today. It's when somebody said it in the chat, when views don't line up, it almost seems like you can get culture. I wrote it like this, Joey. If you want to take mental notes here, this is our working definition today on cancel culture. A little bit of bad can wipe out a whole bunch of good. A little bit of bad can wipe out a whole bunch of good. See, let's be honest, all of us. Cancel culture, it does rub us. All of us. It rubs us, like, there's some tension created with the cancel culture. Because not always does everything line up to what we think. Like, something that you really loved and had value to in your life gets canceled, or an actress or an actor gets canceled because of something they wouldn't do or they did. There's a tension. Now, why is there this tension? Let us hear in the chat. Why do you think cancel culture creates a tension for people? Lily, why do you think that there's this tension around the cancel culture?
Well, I think there's a few different reasons, and for me, because someone can be canceled, I think it allows me to realize that I could be canceled, and personally, I struggle with wanting the approval of others and making sure that I am with it, or like I can fit in where I want to fit in certain spaces, and to think that I could be canceled from that is like, man, that's scary, but also I know that that's not where like my hope comes from. But I also think that just the fact that we do innately know right versus wrong, I think that we all know in our gut how to treat people, and I think that when people get canceled, there's just that tension of like, that's not right. And I don't think that in a good heart I could cancel someone myself and feel good about it. Like it's just crazy to me.
It doesn't seem fair if you wanted to put, like, it just doesn't seem fair. There's a lot of hypocrisy in cancel culture. I mean, think about that. There really is a lot of, and maybe some of you are like, no, I don't think it is. And hear me, I'm not saying everything that's been canceled over it seems like a year and a half, cancel culture is a thing. I'm not saying everything that was canceled shouldn't have been canceled. Or I'm not here to, I just don't know enough facts on every given situation. I'm not saying John Gruden shouldn't have lost his job in what was taking place, okay? I'm not here. I'm just talking about the cancel culture, how a little bit of bad can wipe out a whole lot of good. I wrote it like this, and this is why it should rub us wrong. Cancel culture should bother so many of us because there's no grace in it. There's zero grace when it comes to the cancel culture. There's this built-in hypocrisy in it because we're not all equal opportunity cancelers. Okay, it's just not equal. It changes. It's a moving target. I wrote it like this in my notes. We maximize the bad things in other parties, political people, our friend's background, or that coworker that wants to get a promotion over you. We maximize the bad things so that we might get something out of that. Our agenda might be pushed. We say things that are clearly disqualified. But when we minimize, our party's personal story, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It was a long time ago. It was just a season in my life. It was a chapter. Everyone was doing it like that. But here is the real hypocrisy. When it comes to our dirt and the skeletons in our closet, we actually justify it. When we deal with our breaching our integrity, we take our entire life and say it was just a season. It was a weekend. We rarely extend the same courtesy to other people. But we really love it when people extend that courtesy to us. See, what breaks my heart in the cancel culture is the lack of grace. That there's this lack of, you can't. I think we got to give room for people to change. Okay, let's go to the John Gruden story. Based on the information I had by Wednesday, it was 12 years ago and 7 years ago. And he should have never wrote those things or said it that way. But shouldn't we leave room that he could have changed since then? Oh, my goodness, if you find... there's videos out there because I have pretty much done videos my entire adult life. I'm going to say words that now I should never say or won't say. Because why? Culture. I've just learned differently. That's not funny to say that. It's not appropriate. You could dig way down in our YouTube channel. I've not deleted those things where we've created videos. And this is like, we're talking about 2002 and 2003. Just the words and phrases used that day, you can't use today because it's not appropriate. It's not loving. So if you dig far enough, you're going to find something, but does that make up, or does that destroy all the good I've done? Right? John Gruden, I don't know him personally, but I got to assume he's done some really good things for a lot of people. Let's just take John Gruden's name out of there. Let's just take anybody that's been canceled. They might have done one bad thing, but there's got to be a bunch of good in there. We need to put a little bit of grace into it and say, okay, listen, we see that this is a problem. Let's address it. We're going to put you on a short leash. Don't do it again. If you show signs or trends that you still think this way or that you are this kind of person, then it's over. It's not just you have to agree with me because, my gosh, Joey and Lily and I, we do not agree on every topic. We have a lot of great conversations. Sometimes they get a little bit louder because, Lily and I get louder and Joey just listens. But we tend to get louder because we don't agree on everything. We just don't. But the thing that really keeps us together is there's grace for each other. That when I say something to Lily in a way that is hurtful to her, yes, she's hurt and offended. But for the most part, I catch it. It might be 2 days later, and I come to her. She comes in the office and go, Lily, I got to say, I'm so sorry. Or I give her a call. Lily, I'm sorry for what I said. I shouldn't have said it like that. That's not what I meant. Please forgive me. Because she extends grace to me. She's not going, Scott's a bad man or a jerk, though she has called me that a few times in a race here or there. I'm not harboring any bitterness, Lily, about it, but there is proof that you've done that. But I'm not hurt by, because why? I give her grace, she gives me grace, Joey gives me grace, and I give him grace. I give him mercy, going, hey, listen, the little bit of bad that's happened isn't trumping all the good you've done. And this is just a side note. We've got to, when we have the breach of integrity, because we're talking about that in our own lives, we justify it. We just talk about it was a season in my life. Oh, when I was a teenager, I did that. Or I was under the influence, but everybody else was drinking. And we won't extend the same grace to other people that are getting canceled. We got to extend grace and mercy. And the story today we're going to use is all about this. And I thought it was an appropriate time to talk about it. And why would we spend so much time talking? Because I just think it's a hot thing here today. It's like anytime. What breaks my heart in the story, again, up to Wednesday on the Jon Gruden deal, is there's no grace in it. There's no room for growth for Jon. There's no room. It doesn't, at least what's being documented, right? I don't know behind closed doors, but what information I have, there's no growth and there's no change allowed in it. It's like, nope, you said this 12 years ago, 7 years ago. That's who you are. You're done. You're out. You can't be here anymore. You can't. And I just don't think that that's how we would want to be treated. And what breaks my heart is that when people get on that big hunt of like, yeah, that's so, again, I'm not saying what he said was right. No, it's not okay. We always talk about say things in love. What does love require? Love would never require you, based on the information I have and the emails I've gotten to see that love would never require us to speak down to someone. That's not what love requires, okay? Or some actions people have done. That's not love. But nor is it to just go and say, because you won't do what I want you to do, you're done with. There's a tension to be managed in there. And when we talk about a breach of our integrity, as we wrap up the idea of integrity, Lily, what is our working definition of integrity? Do you know?
Oh, of course I know.
Let's hear it.
It is doing what you ought to, even when it or if it costs you.
Yeah, that's the definition of integrity. Doing what you ought to, even if it costs you. That's our working definition. We try to make it so sticky so that mom and dads could teach their kids this is what integrity is. Character is who you are when no one else is around. Integrity is the action part of your character. So it's both. You can't have one without the other, really. If you have good character, you're going to tend to do what you ought to, even if it costs you. But that's a tough thing, because when it costs you, and you're like, oh, do I do the right thing still? It's just tough. Like, I could paint scenarios for you, but we got to move on. We're using a guy by the name of Daniel to illustrate this. Just a phenomenal story that's in the history books of Israel. They record this tremendous story of, honestly, he's a slave to Nebuchadnezzar and to King Darius. He was taken from Israel back to Babylon to become a Babylonian. They changed his name. They tried to feed him local food. And we learned last week, Daniel was like, man, no, I don't feel okay with. I feel convicted about the food you're trying to feed me. This is the diet that I know I'm supposed to be eating. I'm supposed to be eating clean and drinking clean. So is it okay? He comes back to those over him. He says, is it okay if I abstain from the king's food? I know he's trying to run a test and thinks his food will make me stronger, look better. So is it okay if I abstain from your food and eat this food where I drink water and vegetables and fruits? He doesn't lie. He doesn't make up a different story. He comes to his leader and says, this is where I'm at. Back to cancel culture. Or maybe you work in an organization that's bringing down information that just, for you, it'd be a breach in your integrity. You're like, I don't want to do that. Maybe they're sharing policies. You're like, hold on. No, I love everyone, but what you're asking me to do, I don't agree. Then instead of faking it, it's going and having a real conversation with your co-workers or your boss or your manager or your CEO and just saying, hey, can I ask these questions? He didn't come and say, I'm going to do this. And you can find all of this if you can download a Bible app or you have an old school big, thick leather-backed Bible, you can go to the book in the Old Testament, which is the history books of Israel, and you can go to the book titled Daniel, and you can read this whole story. Daniel chapter 6 is where it all begins to take place, and you'll hear this amazing story where he's like, hey, is it okay if I don't eat this? And you know what? He didn't know the outcome. He didn't. He could have, I mean, back then, head could have been cut off right there. He could have been sent to the salt mines. Go back next week, you'll hear the whole story. But he asked, and then it says, now God moved the heart of his leader. And his leader's like, okay, we'll give you 3 years, see what you look like. If in 3 years you don't look good, it's over. Experiment done. And so his heart was changed. You just don't know the outcome when you feel convicted. Convicted is where you feel like a tap on the shoulder, your stomach's stirring, like, oh, I got to make a change. This isn't okay what I need to do. And then you follow through on it. And so he felt this tap on the shoulder saying, Daniel, don't eat it. He had a conversation. God moved the heart of his leader in 3 years. After 3 years, he won. I mean, God got the credit. Even King Nebuchadnezzar was like, his God is the one true God, because the food we blessed by Marduk, which was their made-up imaginary God, did not have the same impact as Yahweh, the God of the Israelites, had on Daniel or the other guys that did the same thing. It's so cool. And so we want to wrap up integrity. We want to use the story probably most of you know with Daniel, and that's Daniel in the lion's den. How did he get there? If you didn't grow up in church, great. You're going to hear this for the first time, and you're going to hopefully learn some things. So Daniel chapter 6, verse 3, we're jumping into the story. Now Daniel so distinguished himself among the administrators and the governors by his exceptional qualities, that the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. At this, the administrators and governors tried to find grounds for charges against Daniel in his conduct of government affairs. Boy, does this not sound like modern life here, where they're now trying to dredge up on his Facebook, on Instagram. We've got to find some bad on this dude. He's like 55 years old. Nebuchadnezzar is gone. Babylonians are out. King Darius is in. Daniel's so good at what he did and was above the rest that the next king didn't come in and wipe out David. Said, hold on, you're not from here? You're actually from Judea, and now you're in Babylon, and now you're going to be underneath us because we want your wisdom. Well, those that were local were really bothered by this, so they looked for stuff. They're like, we got to find some bad on this dude, because here's the deal. He's going to rule over us. He's not even local, and they were really bothered by it. So they're looking for dirt. I feel like this is a modern story of just, as you just see the cancel culture, I'm going to look up for some dirt on the individual. I'm going to bring it to the attention, and then our past is going to jump into our future and make a mess of it. That's why it's so, here we go, adults. You want something free today. You want something that could be a game. This is why we should never lie about our past. If we are always transparent about our past and we share how we've changed, then no one ever has leverage on it. Like, I am a messy dude. I'm not saying my house is, I'm just saying I am not perfect. I try to behave with love in my heart. I try to speak kind of. These are goals. But I don't know, I fall short always. I have stories where I am probably the villain to some people. Unintentionally, I don't know it all the time. And so I'm not perfect. I fall short all the time. Somebody can go find some past and go, Scott, you say this, but look here, when you were 16, you didn't behave this way. Yeah, I hope I'm different than my 16-year-old self. I hope I'm different than 10 years ago, because God is constantly working on me to be different, to be more like him. The big, you want the big churchy word here? You want the big, that's called sanctification. It's a process of becoming more like Jesus. It's not a snap of the fingers kind of deal. It's a process to get there. And so you, Joey and Lily and those that are running the tech tables, we all better be different versions of ourselves than 5 years ago. We should perhaps maybe potentially be embarrassed by our past, because God has changed the way we see things. I think that's healthy. I think that's a growth. I think that's very important. If you are still sitting here as an adult, having the same values you did at 13, we got to talk. Because the 13-year-old Scott, man, my prayer, like I 13, God, give me a Porsche and $1 million in a shoebox tomorrow morning. I would have killed myself in the Porsche, one. Two, I would have never spent that money correctly. It would have been almost right? My 13-year-old prayers are way different than my 43-year-old prayers. It's just, why? Because I am different. So these guys are going to look for junk on Daniel. They're going back. Lily, when I was saying this, do you look at your past and go, and Joey, I'm going to ask you the same thing. Do you go, oh yeah, man, if people knew about that, they might think of me differently. Do you ever feel that tension?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, how can you not, especially if you've had seasons of growth and seasons of change. And it just also, I just put in the chat, it reminds me of how good God is that he's taken me through those seasons of life and was like, hey, I've got bigger plans for you if you would just trust me. And I'm so thankful that I had people around me to encourage the same thing. But like, it's a process. Like, we all have to make that choice to think and know that there's better.
How about you, Joey? You're a teacher, so this probably rings a little even more true as you probably have to look at your social media feed and stuff because, like, hey, if I'm not careful, I could lose my job because they pull up some past stuff and, oh, Joey or Mr. Sonnenfeld, you were doing this. I mean, have you ever felt like your past could come back to haunt you, Joey?
Yes, the teaching in my social media, not really, to be honest. But definitely, like Lily said, I feel like there's things in my past where if people knew about, I feel like it might change their perspective about me or something like that. And I think that's why it's so important to have a community, this community here, to share those things and open up, because it's going to free you, and it's going to help. You're going to have people that are going to help you along in that sanctification process of becoming more like Jesus. And so, yeah, it's hard to share those because you're scared about it, but I think it's also very important too.
I think Joey's talking about to share all that stuff. Like, obviously, you're not going to just go post on your social media, and maybe you will, I don't know, but it's probably not the place to do it. But we've got to stop being ashamed of our past. It's your past. I understand that all of our pasts look very different, but we're all still guilty of looking back and going, oh, I feel awful that I did that, I said that, all those things. But you know what? When we are constantly leveraging our past to teach people in the present from our past, we take away the sting of our past. We take away the leverage that anyone could ever have, because we go, no, I know that was who I was. But look, I found Jesus in my life is forever changed. That's who I was 10 years ago. That is not who I am today. Why? Because I found Jesus. My hope is, or I want to be a person that acts more loving. I'm making a change. If you don't deal with your past, especially as parents, you will parent just either in the way that, well, you know what, I did that, so I can't tell my kids to do that. When you know the outcome for your children could potentially be just as bad for you, but you're like, who am I to say something? No, you have every right to teach your children the right thing, even if you missed the right thing when you were younger, because you are much wiser now. You have learned. Wouldn't it not be just crazy to you? Like, I'm going to make up a fictional story to just kind of paint this in a way that it would be like me riding my one wheel blindfolded into the woods and getting clotheslined and breaking a rib. Going, oh, that was a dumb idea. And turning around and going, all right, Joey and Lily, I got a great video idea. We're going to blindfold you. You're going to ride down this trail system and letting them go. Or maybe they come to me, a better way is they come to go, Scott, we want to ride our one wheels blindfolded down the trail. What do you think? Go for it. I did it. Who am I to tell you you can't? Wouldn't love require me to go, hold on, Joey and Lily? When I did that, I broke my ribs because I didn't see the tree hanging out there. I don't think that's a good idea. I think you should come up with a different idea. Isn't that not an act of love? So as parents, Just because you smoked it, drank it, and slept with it doesn't mean your children need to do the same thing. You know the outcome of those things. You know the results. It complicated your life. It made relationships very messy. So why would you not parent in a way going, hold on, when it's appropriate to share all the details, because there is an appropriate age to share all the details, in going, all right, hey, this is what happened to me. I would really like you to avoid what happened to me because my life was a hot mess. If you would just do these things, you would be able to avoid some of these things and not carry baggage into your adult life. But we are embarrassed by our past, so we hire a past. But when our past is hidden in the darkness is the leverage that everyone has to make us feel guilty. You want to live a free life, then you need to forgive yourself. Understand that God has forgiven that of you when you ask Him to forgive and turn from it. That's not in my notes. That's just free stuff for you. Daniel, back to the story of Daniel in chapter 6. He's 55 years old at this point. Okay, so no, sorry. He was 7 years at this point, but he was in government for 55 years. So as these guys are looking for junk on him, like mess stuff, right? Like, who did he kill to get here, to stay in office this long? What skeletons are in his closet? What did he lie about to get into office this long? He's gone through 2 kings here. How is it that he's made it this far? And the history tells us that Daniel actually made it through 3 kings, which is just crazy. I mean, think about here in the United States, how many people that are close to the president make it with the next president? Not very many, okay? It just doesn't happen because when a new regime comes in, it's all new regime. Get out the old, keep the new. Daniel makes it through 3. And so, Daniel chapter 6, verse 4. But they were unable to do so. They couldn't find stuff. They could find no corruption in because he was trustworthy, neither corrupt nor negligent. Okay. They couldn't find anything. They're frustrated, so they come up with this plan that they all agreed upon. They met together as a team, and they come to the king and said, listen, we want to make a King Darius month. 30 days of Darius, where everybody has to pray to you, and we're going to have bobbleheads, we're going to have t-shirts and hats, we're going to have banners and parades, we're going to have cupcakes with your face on it. This is going to be 30 days of Darius. So everybody prays to you. They can't pray to any other god or people but you, Darius, because you are King Darius. We need to honor you. They came up with this plan because they needed to have something on Daniel. They said the only way we're going to get something on Daniel is to come at him about his relationship with his God, with Yahweh. That's it. That's all we can do. Let's get him where he does something which is not actually bad, but bad because of the new law. And so you can see that in Daniel chapter 6, verse 5, they all agree upon the Darius day. They appeal to the king's ego. And the king's like, this is phenomenal. Everybody bowing down. 30 days of Darius. Woo! Let's do it. Get the t-shirts and the hoodies printed. Okay, and so, Daniel chapter 6, verse 8, Your Majesty, issue a decree and put it in writing, they say. Let's write this down so it cannot be altered. In accordance to the laws of the Medes and the Persians, which cannot be repealed. Which means you can't make changes. Like there's no like but ifs or this little clause here. This is the mandate. You break it, you're in big trouble. There's no way, even the king himself cannot change this because in their mind they go, we know we're going to get Daniel. We're going to sabotage Daniel. There's no way Daniel's going to pray to King Darius. There's just no way he's going to do this. So when we get him, we don't want the king to be moved with compassion and go, oh, wait. Daniel is a good, upright man. He would never do anything again. Like he's got a track record of being a man of integrity. When he's caught, they don't want the king to go, well, no, the little bit of bad you're bringing, which isn't bad at all, doesn't cancel out all the good he's done. They're creating the first round of the cancel culture here. They're going to go like, this dude just did one bad thing. He's a bad man. It's over. So the king makes it irreversible. An absolute. It was absolutely to be enforced. So, he put it in writing. In verse 10 of Daniel chapter 6. Now the question was, what does Daniel do? What would you do in this moment? really think about it. What would you do if a decree, a law, a mandate was made that you're just like, I feel convicted on? Now, when I say this, don't be the kind of person, like, if Jesus is the Lord of our life, he leads us. Let's use the illustration of a train. I like to, I think every country has trains in it, so you should understand it. You have the engine. Lily, what does the engine of the trains do?
It helps it go.
What's it do?
What?
What does it do? Like, it helped it go, but what is it doing? Is it pulling or pushing?
Pushing.
Way wrong answer, Lily.
I don't know.
Where's the
Do
engine
you
of
know,
the train?
Joey? The train.
Of course I do.
The train is
No,
the
the
engine
engine.
of the train is in the front.
Okay, so if the engine is in the front, it is
Pulling.
yes. Okay,
Pulling.
Pulling. Yes.
I know what Lily was thinking of. She was thinking of the caboose.
I have no idea what I was thinking
And
of.
what does the
I
caboose
just
do,
learned
Joey?
last night
Hold
that
on.
Sorry.
What's the caboose do, Joey?
I don't know. I just know it's the back and
Okay, well,
someone
That's,
someone
I
in
think
the
that's all it
caboose.
does, actually. Okay, Lily, what did you learn? And
I
is it on
learned-
topic?
yeah, trains, that a locomotive is referring to trains. I've heard a locomotive before, but I didn't know.
my goodness.
Anyways, moving on.
Brains are exploding
What
everywhere.
is your analogy with the train?
Okay,
I'd
so
love to know.
So you have the engine that is pulling all of the other carts behind it. Okay, now let's say Jesus is the engine in our life that should be leading all of our thoughts, right? Every cart of a train is a different thought or opinion, and Jesus should be pulling that down the track. But what we've got in the culture today is we've taken the engine and we've put it behind, and now it pushes all of our thoughts. No, Jesus is behind where I sit on this topic, but is he really? Do you know that for sure? Because that's a dangerous place to be, saying that Jesus is pushing all of my opinions and thoughts. Jesus needs to be the front. He needs to be pulling you in a direction, leading you in a direction, not you leading Jesus, saying, no, Jesus, you're really into what I'm into. Just food for thought there. So you have Daniel. A new mandate's been made. They found no wrong in him, so they're going to create something to get a little bad, to cancel out all the good. And so they got him. And what does Daniel do? What would you do? Now, when Daniel learned about the decree that had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows were open and what? What would you do? This is the question. What would I do? What do you do then? You know the mandate. What do you do? Why is he going upstairs? It really depends on what's important to you. That's really how you're going to find the answer to what would you do in these moments. What's important to you? Boy, what we learned in 2020 and 2021, what's important to a lot of people. And it might be surprising that what people think they've learned about you that's most important. If you're a person that claims to be a follower of Jesus, would people see that in the things you post, that you are a follower of Jesus? Or would they think, oh, this person's pushing this thing more? Or this thing is the most important to them? The answer to the question, what would you do, it really depends on what is important to you. See, I wrote it like this. It's one thing to do what you ought to when you think it might cost you. What do you do when you're certain the right thing will cost you? See, it's 50-50 the other way. I don't know, doing the right thing might cost me, but I'm willing to gamble. But doing the right thing and you know it's going to cost you, that is a game changer. And in this moment of this decision, we learn what is most important to us, what we're committed to. We discover whether or not our integrity and our faith is disposable. That it's just something we've leveraged to get a position in life. We leveraged our faith and our integrity, maybe as a single person, to get an individual. And then I see it all the time. They get the individual, and then all of a sudden they no longer care about their integrity or being a follower of Jesus because, hey, I got what I wanted. It's not a big deal anymore. I'm just doing this to get an outcome. I remember my freshman year in high school, a little dude, little Scott running around freshman year. I remember a senior in high school, for whatever reason, one day he decided to smack my back of my head into my locker. Just bam! Oh man, the sound of those aluminum lockers, poof, hit it right before 6 hour, hit it right there. I was really stunned, dropped my big old books, turned around, ginormous dude. And I had nothing to say. I was just like, and I just picked up my books. All his friends and buddies are laughing. And, look at you Christian boy. He started calling me Jesus freak, he said, because I would carry my Bible around school. And I really was not ashamed about being a follower of Jesus. And this dude said, I'm going to do this. Is literally like within the first couple of days of me being a freshman. He said, I'm going to do this every day until you say a swear word. That's all he wanted me to do, is to use a word that I just didn't use. I didn't wear shirts that said cussing is bad or anything. It was just, this is what the dude, I have no idea why. Smack my head in the locker every day. He was one, I don't know what the football coaches were thinking. Joey, have you ever seen this where the freshmen scrimmage against the varsity team in football? Have you ever done that or seen that?
No, we have never had the freshman team versus the varsity team ever, unless the freshmen are brought up for a reason, like single, like 2 or 3 freshmen that are playing at the varsity level. But no, freshman team has never played the varsity team.
Yeah, right? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So one day, our coaches, whatever reason, freshmen are going to go scrimmage against the varsity team. And I heard the dude that had been smacking my head in a locker counting, 1 freshman, 2 freshmen. I don't know, I was like the 12th freshman or something. He had his helmet off. I had my helmet on. And he took his helmet and bam, right across the side of my helmet. And I fell over. My ears were buzzing, the whole deal. I was like, what in the world? And the dude, like, I'm stumbling around and he's like, are you going to swear? Are you getting mad enough? Like, seriously, you feel like I'm making this up. It is, I'm not. So, continued on. I remember well into my freshman year, one day, I must have grown enough over my freshman year. He smacks my head into the locker and I hit the grates on the top of the lockers and my forehead gets cut. Now I got blood coming down to my forehead. I come home. I can't hide it anymore because my dad asked, why do you have these marks on your forehead? I tell him, hey, there's just this guy that keeps smacking my head in the locker. Why? He keeps calling me Jesus freak. He wants me to use a swear word. And I don't want to say it was I just wouldn't do it. I just am like, that's fine. You can beat me up physically, but listen, I'm not going to be bullied, okay? Maybe that was my first introduction of dealing with pain. I don't know. And so my dad, my only boy, is not going to be taken. He goes to school without me knowing and really tells about this kid that it's happening with. And then the police get involved and it ends. He can't, like, if he comes close to me, he would get kicked off the football team and stuff. That Friday night football game, freshman team sitting in the stands. And we are watching the sophomores play because sophomores always played before the varsity team. Varsity's down in the front, and at halftime they would leave and get dressed. I see this dude make his way up to me, sitting and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. He knows that, the story, and he comes and goes, Scott, I was just joking, man. I was just having a good time. In my mind, I was like, we got to redefine what is fun, okay? Because that is not fun for me. I didn't enjoy. There was no excitement. I will look forward to that. He's like, I was just messing around. I wish it wouldn't have gotten to this point. And I remember just looking at it, and I go, what were you hoping? And he was like, I was just hoping that you would say a swear word so that I could prove that you're not really a follower of Jesus. I couldn't wrap my head around it. It was wild. There's a whole part of this story that we can't get into later on in life. We bump into each other. Actually, I'll share it because I think it's pretty cool. We bump into each other. I mean, we're out of high school, well out of high school. I'm in a service at a church, and I see him walk into the church, and I'm like all the fear came back to me. I'm like, oh, where's the locker? Are we all good? And after the service, he comes up to me and goes, listen, I want you to know that my life changed when I was a freshman in college. I found Jesus. And it was really because of that whole story that transpired. And I'm not saying that always happens. It was like, whoa, okay, that's pretty wild. But I used this story, because I had a chance, not always have I had a chance, to know where I sit. Will my integrity or what am I committed to most, will it outshine what I'm feeling in the moment? It depends on what's most important to you. What happens when our back's up against the wall? it was working for me. See, we allow to think like this. It was working for me, but suddenly maintaining my faith, maintaining my integrity is threatening, and you know what? It's not that big of a deal anymore. And suddenly our integrity, our faith is disposable. It just is a means to an end. When it no longer works, it's no longer taking me to the ends that I want. See, I think happy are the students, the college students, the married couple, the teenager whose integrity has been tested. You pass the test because you have learned something about yourself that you can't learn any other way. You're having peace with yourself and peace with God because you know your integrity was tested and you stood your ground. So what would you do? A mandate has been made and you know Jesus is telling you that's not okay. What would you do? Well, this is what Daniel does. Daniel chapter 6, verse 10. Now, when Daniel learned the decree was published, he went up to his upper room where the windows were open towards Jerusalem. And he knelt on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to God just as he had done before. Last week, do you remember when we spoke on Daniel before? At age 15, he had a moment of integrity. He had like, what am I going to decide to do? And he decides to do the right thing. He stuck to his integrity, did what he ought to do, even if it was going to cost him. So at this point, he had already practiced it. And he didn't fake it. He didn't go, you know what? I know I shouldn't eat this meat. And I said this last week, but I want to say it again. He didn't feed it to the dogs and go get mice. He went and told his leaders, I have an issue with this. It is okay if I do this. He asked a question. He didn't fake it, because if he was faking it, saying, oh, I'll act like I'm doing it, but then I'll make it look like I did, but I won't actually do. I'll feed it. That's a breach in integrity as well. But he didn't do that. So, in this moment, he does what he's done in the past before. 3 times a day, he gets down on his knees and prays. Daniel's thinking, why change now? This is what I've always done. A decree's always been made, but I've always done what I feel led by God to do. So why change now? And his thought is, who's in charge? His other thought, who determines outcomes? Is it the person that's in charge that determines the outcome? Is it the kings that determine outcomes? Is it always people deciding the outcomes of events and things in our lives? And he thinks back when he was a teenager under the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, who's no longer alive. He thought he determined outcomes. Nebuchadnezzar died a long time ago. Now Darius, Daniel's new boss, thinks he determines outcomes. So the question is for you, for me, who do you think determines outcomes? And are you sure about your answer? Do you really think it's you determine the outcome? Do you think it's me that determines it? Do you think it's your president of your organization that actually determines the outcomes? This is a big question. One that we probably could just end here and you spend a week to think about. Who do you think determines your outcomes? Do you think it's that sibling that's loaded with all the money, so when they say something, it impacts the whole family, so they're the ones that impact they're the ones that determine the outcome? See, Daniel knew what I hope we all can learn and know. That it's not the king that determines the outcome. It's Yahweh. It's God. It's the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords who determines the outcome, not the emperors and not the kings. So why would Daniel do anything different? He's going to do what he's always done. See, in these moments, you learn a lot about yourself, your friends, and your family. I think one of the coolest things in the 2020 era or after that is we're learning a lot about people's integrity. We're actually starting to see people for who you thought they were because of the way they're behaving and the way they are unloving towards other people. See, I wrote it like this. This is when we get to learn if you really have faith or if I have faith in God or just trying to play like I do. Maybe you or myself have been treating God as a good luck charm. Maybe you're like, I'll do the right thing as long as it pays to do the right thing. And when it doesn't, I'll dispose of it. After some of us treat our faith, after all, some of us treat our faith as if it is disposable. As long as my faith provides me more, I'll use my faith. As soon as it costs me, I'll toss my faith aside. It's just a means to end. See, those that wanted Daniel to mess up, they sent out spies to watch him. And then they caught him praying. And then they went to King Darius and said, hey, Daniel, he didn't listen to the decree. He did the wrong thing. Listen to how they write it, or they say to Darius in Daniel chapter 6, verse 12. King Darius, did you not publish a decree that during the next 30 days, anyone who prays to any god or any human other than you, except for you, your majesty, would be thrown into the lion's den? The king answered, that decree stands. That's what I said. Daniel, who is one of the exiles from Judea. See, they're reminding the king that he's got a past. He's not one of us. He paid no attention to your decree, your majesty, or that you put in writing. He still prays 3 times a day. David did what he'd always done before. See, Darius loved Daniel. Darius knew that Daniel was a man of integrity. That's why Daniel is in the position he was in. He was going to be over all the governor officials of the new kingdom. Darius is stuck. He's like, oh my gosh, yes, that's the decree, but I love this guy. You can see in verse 12 where Darius now goes, how do I reverse what I wrote? Because I didn't think Daniel would get caught. And this Daniel's an upright guy. Oh my gosh, I see what's happened now. This was a way to get at Daniel. What have I done? A good man. But he can't reverse it. Verse 16. Verse 16. So when the king was heard about it, he's distressed, overwhelmed. They bring Daniel in, so that the king gave an order. And they brought Daniel and threw him into the lion's den. They actually, I don't know about you and me, but when I picture this, I think they pick up a dude and just chuck him. No, it wasn't like a lion's den in the side of a mountain. It was actually a pit that the lions were in, and then you lowered the people into it. And it was common practice, so they lower Daniel down to the ground where, this is going to be a gross place because they would weekly throw humans in there to feed the lions. So it's just not going to be a pleasant experience as you're being lowered down, the smell, the fear of, oh my gosh, these lions are going to get me. And then the king says something, King Darius, he says this in verse 16. The king said to Daniel, may your God, Yahweh, whom you serve continually, rescue you. May the God that you are more committed to than your own perseverance or your preservation rescue you. And a stone was placed over the mouth of the den, it says. And Darius is saying, man, I can tell who you're committed to. It's not to me. It's not to yourself. It's to God. And the stone rolled over it. Then the king returned to his palace and spent the night without eating, without any entertainment being brought to him. And he couldn't sleep because Darius knew he'd just taken a man of integrity and wrongfully punished him. And there was nothing he could do. He found himself frustrated. At first light, Darius runs to, and you can see this in verse 20, Darius runs to where the lion's den was, gets the stone rolled away, and it says this, when he came near to the den, he called Daniel in an anguished voice. It wasn't like, Daniel, are you there? It was like a scream. Daniel, are you there? Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue from the lions? Now, you grew up in Sunday school, you're like, get to the story, I know it, and we rush by this. We rush by, because here's the deal. Daniel already won before the outcome of this story. You're like, how did he win? Like, if he gets eaten by the lions, he didn't win. He got thrown in the lions and he didn't win. How did he win? Well, let's define what is a win. Because if we rush by this point of the story, you missed the point of the story. The point of the story isn't about the lion's den. There's a bigger, the point's already been made. Daniel's primary concern was not the outcome of his decision. His primary concern was not validating his conscience. His primary concern was being faithful to Yahweh, his God. Doing the right thing for Daniel was the win. If the story ends here, this is all we read. We don't know if he lived or died, or we know he died. Daniel won. He won. How can I say he won? Because for him, he knows that the outcome is not guaranteed. There is no guarantee for Daniel, nor is there any guarantee for you and me. That if we do the right thing, that it's going to work out for us. There's just no guarantee. So what's your win? I got a lot of questions for you guys today. Daniel had already won, and he won because of this. And this is what I want you to understand, that he already won because what he was supposed to do was trust God with the outcome. Regardless of the outcome, Daniel already won. He did what he was supposed to do, and that was trust God with the outcome. Where you feel convicted is to trust God with the outcome. You do the right thing, leave the outcome to God. Do the right thing, leave the outcome to God. Now, I want the race, so I'm going to cheat myself. If it's always about the outcome, your integrity will be thrown away so many times just to get an outcome. And here's what I know. When we're after the outcome, a means for the end, it's a lose-lose. You lose your integrity, and let's say it's after money. You lose the money at some point because you've spent it. You give it away, or it's just a lose-lose. Everything we gain by sacrificing our integrity can or will be taken away. You lose your integrity, and eventually you lose what you knew was coming or hoped it was coming your way when you gave up your integrity. Daniel won before he knew the outcome. His win was doing what was right before God. See, history in the Bible teaches us that there have been kings that thought they controlled outcomes. Why would I trade faithfulness to God trying to manipulate or predict what someone else is going to do? I can't. Outcomes are not my responsibility, nor are they your responsibility. There is not an argument for this is not an argument, I should say, for irresponsibility, meaning I don't have to worry about anything. I can eat however I want. I don't care about no. Outcomes are not my responsibility. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to eat healthy so that the outcomes are not to me. It should give us freedom and peace. My responsibility, this is it. Your responsibility is to obey God and leave all the consequences to him. It's a quote from Dr. Charles Stanley. I like that. My responsibility is to obey God, to do the right thing, and to leave the consequences to him. Do you want to win? Then do what you ought to, even when you're certain it's going to cost you. That's the win. How do I do that? How does Joey do that? How do you guys that are still logged in, how do you do that? You know how I know you want to do that? Is because we want our teachers to do that. We want our presidents to do that. Our kings to do that. We want our CEOs, the president of the organization, we want them to do the right thing and leave the outcomes to God. Back to the story with Daniel, who's already won. Has your God whom you serve continually been able to rescue you from the lions? Daniel, my God sent his angels and shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I ever done any wrong before you, your majesty. Another question for you. Will God do this for you? Will God do this for me? It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. It should be about doing the right thing. If your integrity is a way to a happily ever after ending, that's not integrity. That's something else. And if I can, as we wrap this thing up, to the followers of Jesus out there, that you are saying, I'm a follower, just tune in real quick. I know you got a lot going on. If the outcome of a decision matters more to you than doing the will of your Heavenly Father, you're not a follower of Jesus. I know that stings. I know you're like, whoa, how can you say that, Scott? The Lord of my life means I'm being led by Him. And if the outcome of a decision matters more about me doing the right thing to Jesus, then I'm not a follower of Jesus in that moment. I'm something else. I'm a user. I'm using Jesus for an outcome. You know who was a user that Judas was a user. He used Jesus until he realized, wait, hold on. We're about to go back to Jerusalem, and I have a feeling it's not going to work out so well for you, Jesus, so I'm going to sell you for some gold, and I want an outcome. I wanted to get paid. I want to be on the winning team. Judas was a user. You know that, remember we said it's a lose-lose. Judas lost the money, and he loses his life. And if he wouldn't have taken his life early, he still would have spent the money, and it would have been gone. He'd have lost it still. Following Jesus means we stop bargaining. I love what Jesus writes, and the author John records this. These are Jesus' words. I have come down from heaven not to do my will, but to do the will of who sent me. If we're trying to be more like Jesus, that's what our goal is to do God's will. We're not puppets, and He's not a dictator. God has a plan for you, and it's a good one. It's not perfect in your eyes. Doesn't mean you're going to have a lot of money and prosperity all over the place and be healthy all the time. It's just not the God we serve. So what is your win? I wrap up with this. And I wrote it like this. The win is going to bed every night with a clear conscience, knowing you did the will of your Father, knowing that you did what you ought to do, saying, Heavenly Father, I trust all of the outcomes and consequences to you. But you have to decide ahead of time, because that's what Daniel did. When he was 15 years old, he decided ahead of time to do the right thing, even though it might cost him. He had decided before he got into that moment. Will you decide today to do the right thing, even when you know it will cost you? And here's the deal. That's the target. We're going to mess up all along the way. And God is a God of forgiveness and mercy. Don't take advantage of that. But understand, like, I have a breach in integrity a lot, and I have to apologize and ask forgiveness, but my goal is to stop doing it as much. That's the goal. And to make up my mind ahead of time how I'm going to handle given situations. I think what you see in our videos from our one-wheel races, and things happen, and it's crazy, and like, how are you guys keeping it all together? It's because we have made decisions long time ago that we aren't going to behave like that in those moments because we're following Jesus. We decided ahead of time. So those moments of scariness or frustration, we don't lash out to each other or we don't lose our minds because we decided ahead of time. So as I pray, would you maybe begin to make a list of what you're going to decide today before some new mandate comes out or some new decree from a king comes out? That you're going to make your decision today. And I'm not talking about, in case you're going, well, what are you talking about, vaccines and masks, because that's a hot topic? No. If that's where your mind goes slowly, it's very narrow-minded. It's past that. So move past those two things. Figure out what Jesus is saying to you on it, okay? For you, not the rest of the world. Figure out what Jesus is saying to you. Move past that and figure out the other things. How about in your marriage, in raising kids, the way you behave at work? Should you really be playing video games at work, on the clock? That could be a breach of integrity. Let's pray. Jesus, I thank you for this topic of integrity. I thank you that you are a God that teaches us and speaks to us still today. May we make up ahead of time what we're going to do in those moments where our integrity might be on the line. Jesus, may today you speak clearly to us. We may answer the question, what is Jesus saying to me, and what am I going to do about it? In your name, amen. I'm really stoked about how we're going to end the 24-hour challenge and the topic. Next week, we're going to get a little bit more on how do you hear from God? How do you know what God is saying to you? How do you know God's talking to you? Because we keep saying this, and I know a lot of you are going, but how do I know? We're talking about that next week. How do you hear from God? How do you know God is speaking to you? Joey, would you also give us a chance? Like Joey's going to not teach, he's just going to give us a chance to give here in a second. And why do we do this here is because we understand that we read through the Bible, it talks about giving a portion of our resources. And we use your resources to spread the good news all over the place. We step into people's messy situations and help them when they're out of a job, and your resources do allow us to do that. Honestly, people around the world have been impacted because of your generosity, okay? Some of them are in the chat today, and you don't even know it, that your resources have just been transferred to them because we are constantly asking, where's the greatest need and how can we meet that need? And your generosity allows us to do that, but that's not why we give. We give because Jesus talks about giving a portion of our resources because it's an act of trust. Joey, how can they do that?
So the easiest way is you can text UNLOCK to 77977. Simple way. Otherwise, you can go to unlockchurch.com, and at the top you can push give and follow it from there. So those are two ways you can give at Unlock Church. I also just want to mention if there's any middle school or high school students in the chat, what's up, Brody? To invite you to our youth services on Wednesday. They are at 7 o'clock. They're super fun. You can find out more details at unlockchurch.com. For that, we have a costume party coming up. That's going to be sweet. So it's called The Challenge. So, just want to throw that out there as well.
Yeah, you honestly, invite everyone to that. It's so much fun to watch and see what they do in here. A couple weeks ago, they had young people building Big Macs with their toes, and then someone ate it. It's pretty gross, but funny to watch. Guys, thank you so much for hanging with us. I really hope you've enjoyed the integrity conversation. Thank you for being in the chat with us. It means a ton to us to be able to have these conversations and hopefully point you towards what is Jesus saying to you and what are you going to do about it. For us, this one is coming to an end. We'll see you next week as we conclude the 24-hour Great Lake race. Guys, we love you. Have a great one. This one is over.